I am going to call the meeting of the Higher Education Employment Advancement Committee to order, and having done that, we will recess until 1:30. Okay, I think we're ready. We will reconvene the meeting of the Higher Education and Employment Advancement Committee. I am the chair, Greg Haddad, and my co-chair, Derek Slapp, is to my left, along with our ranking members, Senator Henry Martin and Representative Seth Branca. This will be this will be our last meeting. So this will serve as our proverbial JF meeting. We'll see if we can get through the agenda items and then we'll make some announcements at the end. Do you have any additional comments? No, seeing none. Then we'll proceed under item number 3. The first item is Senate Bill number 977, an act protecting participants in Title IX proceedings at institutions of higher education. The chair will accept a JFS of LCO number 6361. If somebody wants to make that motion. Motion's been made by Senator Slapp and seconded by Representative Ackert. This bill is in reaction to a Supreme Court decision that was made a couple years ago, 2 years ago, I think, that put into question whether or not complainants in college Title IX adjudication processes are exempt, are entitled to some immunity from defamation cases and other kinds of cases, civil cases. And so this bill clarifies what the circumstances are. Essentially says that so long as the complaint is not malicious and is made in good faith, that there will be some immunity will attach. The JFS language removes the reference to criminal liability, which I think we felt went a little bit further than the intent of the original legislation. And so I'll ask if there's any additional questions or remarks. Representative Branco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I do just want to make a quick note and give our appreciation for giving us the extra time. There was a little bit of a mix-up getting the substitute language out, so appreciate the extra time to be able to read through that and reconvene. So thank you. And on this agenda item, I would offer we begin a consent calendar and add this item to it.
Okay, if there is no objection, and I see none, then we will add this item to a consent calendar. Knowing my track record at calling the consent calendar, I'm gonna make sure that I don't forget to. I'm gonna give Representative Sweet. It's your responsibility at the end of the year meeting to remind me that we need to call a vote on the consent calendar. All right, good. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is Senate Bill number 1297, an act concerning minor revisions to the higher education statutes concerning the establishment of the Connecticut State College, Community College, and the Board of Regents for Higher Education. The substitute language, I'll ask for a JFS for substitute number LCO 6352. Would someone like to make that motion? Motion's been made by Senator Gadkar Wilcox and seconded by Senator Slapp. This is minor revisions. It comes to us from the LCO Office of Legislative Commissioner's Office, and our own LCO attorney who's combed through our statutes to correct references to some institutions and bodies that have changed their name from individual community colleges to the Connecticut State College, Connecticut State Community College. Are there any additional questions or comments? Representative Branco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I would also offer this item to the consent calendar.
Okay, if there's no objection, we'll add that item to the consent calendar. Perfect. Item number 3, Senate Bill number 1410, an act establishing a task force to support promise programs in the state. Chair will accept a motion to JFS this item referencing LCO number 6320. That motion has been made by Senator Slapp and seconded by Senator Gadkar Wilcox. I'll turn it over to my co-chair who can explain the bill and its importance.
Thank you, Representative Haddad. I have never been so excited about a task force bill. before this one. So one of the key goals of higher education is to expand opportunity for folks. This bill will help us do that in Connecticut. It's going to leverage the expertise and experience of the 3 Promise programs in the state of Connecticut, which is they're located in Hartford, New Haven, and Waterbury. And these Promise programs are great partnerships between corporations and the business community, philanthropists, and the local school districts to really harness talent in disadvantaged communities and to lift these families and these students, into the middle income, and oftentimes these folks are first generation students, and so this is not a snap of the fingers kind of policy, but it's saying let's really harness the collective expertise in these organizations and see how we can potentially expand the Promise programs. So that's what the bill does. Our legislative leaders get appointees to this task force. And I hope, unlike many other task force that are established in the General Assembly, this one gets populated and gets populated quickly, and they get back to work, so then we can have something to look at in the near future. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is there a question? Yes, I see one from Representative Ackert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I would ask the good senator to be the watchdog on the leadership to do that. I've been on a task force that was actually did its job, and then I've seen a couple of task forces that we worked to get through that never had appointments and never met to accomplish their goals. So I'm glad the senator is in full support of this, and if I need to push our leadership on my side of the aisle, I will do that, Senator.
Thank you, Representative. Challenge accepted.
Are there any additional comments or questions? Representative Branco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And after the good senator's explanation, I'm convinced we could add this to consent.
And if there is no objection, we will add this item to the consent calendar. Item number 4, Senate Bill number 1413, an act concerning inclusive programs for students with intellectual or developmental disabilities at the Connecticut State University system. Chair will accept a motion to JF this item. Motion has been made by Senator Slapp and seconded by Representative Farrar. Did you want to enthusiastically support this task force as well?
Yes, this is not a task force, actually. But, I would note to the good chair, folks in the IDD community have been waiting a long, long time for this. And, when I joined the General Assembly in 2017, there had already been discussions for years about establishing some kind of, residential program at a college campus in Connecticut for folks with IDD, because many of them and their families really do want to continue with their education. The experience is very valuable, not only for the students with intellectual and developmental disabilities, but also for other students on campus. And so, there hasn't been a bill, there's been no legislation, and this has kind of been withering for a long, long time. And in many families I've heard from in the IDD community lament the lack of opportunity and continuing education for their family members, and say, look, we don't want them to move out of state where other states do offer this kind of program. So the goal here is to jumpstart this finally, and to get a plan in front of us so we have some answers to how much would this cost, and what's the what would tuition be, as an example, and how can we make this sustainable, and which campus would it be most appropriate on, and all those kind of questions I see that this bill getting at, so we have something that hopefully we could take action on in the near future. But it's the wait, we should be telling them with this vote and hopefully passage in the Senate and the House that the wait is finally over. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions or comments about this item? Representative Branco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would also offer this item for consent.
That item is, if there is no objection, I see no objections, that item will be moved to the consent calendar. If you could pause for just one moment. Thank you. We'll restart again. Next item on the agenda is item number 5, House Bill 6074, an act concerning the student loan reimbursement program. The chair will ask for JFS of LCO number 6321. Somebody like to make that motion? Motion's been made by Senator Slapp and seconded by Senator Martin. Thank you very much. This amendment to the underlying bill accomplishes a number of goals. I'm going to go through them fairly quickly. But again, the student loan reimbursement program is the new student loan reimbursement program that started just on January 1st of this year. It reimburses student loan borrowers who apply for the program on a first come, first served basis for up to $5,000, provided they meet certain qualifications and volunteer with a nonprofit organization for at least 50 hours. Most of the changes that we're making in this legislation are addressing specific concerns that have arisen as the Office of Higher Education and have been taking in new applications and trying to correct some things that were maybe could be improved upon after a little bit of experience. And I'll reference some of them as we go along. First and foremost among them is, the current program requires that eligible volunteer hours be to nonprofits, 501c3 organizations that are registered with the Department of Consumer Protection. That turns out to be a smaller list of nonprofit organizations than the whole list of nonprofits that are registered in Connecticut. So we're eliminating a reference to the Department of Consumer Protection and just requiring that all of the nonprofits be federally registered 501c3 organizations. We're clarifying that we want volunteer hours in service to the armed forces of the United States to be applicable hours. To clarify as well that unpaid work hours that are completed as a student is completing their degree program, I think student teaching hours or clinical hours for nursing students would also count as volunteer hours that would make someone eligible for the student loan program. Additionally, we are establishing a volunteer hardship waiver. We heard some testimony from at least one instance of a person who had cancer and couldn't physically complete the volunteer hours. And so we're adding a provision that allows OHE to come up with a reasonable hardship waiver for folks who are like that. It also changes the way that folks who are doing military service document that information. Right now, we require a notary to witness an attestation of completion of the volunteer hours. That has been difficult for some service folks who are under active service to complete because of the absence of notaries at Army bases or overseas. So we're allowing the Office of Higher Education to accept documentation from the military service itself as evidence of completion of the volunteer status. And likewise for folks who are completing hours through an institution of higher education to use transcripts or other official information to document that they've met those service requirements. One additional change that we're making to the program is, we heard a lot of testimony from folks who suffered damage due to the result of Stone Academy failure, the closure of Stone Academy. We had a bill in front of this committee that would have established a scholarship program for those students, and we decided that we would make them eligible for this program, and we essentially grant them both hardship waivers, so that if a student who attended Stone Academy, but whether or not they've earned a degree or not, or whether or not they've completed the volunteer hours or not, that we can provide them with some relief through this program that allows them to move on and hopefully complete their education and get the degree that they want. The one error that is, or correction that we want to make to the substitute language is the original language allowed applicants to complete their volunteer hours using volunteer hours to more than just a single nonprofit organization. That was dropped from the substitute language inadvertently. So I think that we'd like to re-add that language to the substitute language. And so the chair will accept a motion that allows the LCO attorney to modify the substitute language to include a provision that allows the volunteer hours to be completed by more than one nonprofit entity, and to make any other conforming changes in the substitute language to effectuate that change. And so if somebody would like to make that motion, that motion has been made by Senator Slapp and seconded by Senator Martin. Is there any discussion or additional clarification needed for that change? On the amendment, right? So we will have a voice vote on that amendment. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any abstention? We don't ask for abstentions here. That motion passes. The motion, so now it's the substitute language with the provision allowing for the volunteer hours to be completed through more volunteer hours through more than one nonprofit organization. Is there any additional comments or questions about this legislation? Representative Ackert.
I think I'll start at the beginning, and that is adding. So we took the Stone Academy legislation and added it to this, correct? What was the thought process on adding this to this legislation rather than standalone?
So the original Stone Academy language would have done something completely different. It would have established a $10 million scholarship for that could be accessed by Stone Academy students. Frankly, $10 million in short supply. Didn't feel like that was even if we had advanced that out of the committee, it would have been a real battle to sort of secure that kind of commitment to the population that we're talking about. I think that we saw this as an opportunity to provide some relief, much needed relief to the students who didn't graduate but attended Stone Academy and at sometimes were unable to complete their degree. For others, they earned credits that are essentially valueless in the market now. They're not transferable. So this is some relief that we could provide. Adding it to the existing program and making the changes in this bill, I think ensures that we're not talking about an added expense, that the dollars that are allocated to the student loan program will remain the same, but these students will be able to access those dollars on a first come, first served basis like all other applicants.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, because I always cringe a little bit when I see the within available appropriations when we're thinking if it's an important refund that we should have for Stone Academy, and then we go within available appropriations. Sometimes those appropriations don't appear. So that's my struggle with that piece of it. And then moving on, so typically the volunteer hours or unpaid hours that we're typically talking about, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I know, and listen, strong supporter of our firefighters, emergency medical services. In many cases, they receive stipends. Would they still be able to receive the stipends that they get for their hours used? Because they do receive payment from your communities, just, there is a line item. Would they still be able to receive those dollars, their stipends, and also qualify for these credit hours?
It's good. It's a good question, Representative Ackert. Give me a moment. I'll take a look at the language.
And then, but while you're looking at that, I'm sure every military person receives a paycheck also, and for their hours served. And as a veteran myself, primarily many veterans don't pay for college anymore. I mean, there's so many opportunities, and so for them to receive free, I don't know what college doesn't have it in Connecticut right now, has military waivers. So not sure how that plays in here. And listen, anytime you can add a veteran, I'm for it. But sometimes adding it in looks there's nice language that means nothing though.
Yes, so I'm looking at the substitute language, and I'm looking at lines essentially 44 through 61. It consistently references unpaid before volunteer hours. And so I would say that as it's currently, that's the current program as it's currently constructed. But I think you raise a good point, and well, this is the way the legislation is written now, the way the program is written now. I'd be happy to sort of continue the discussion after, if this bill should make it through the committee, and if funding should be allocated for the program in the future, to talk about how we might accommodate certain, some of the specific examples that you just mentioned.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. And always appreciate your openness for future dialogue. And then just on our agenda, we have something that is just like slide right into this piece of legislation. That is item 8. It seems like it's similar, but just classifies another group of people. So I'm just curious why that didn't slide into this legislation also, through you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. That's a good question. I imagine we'll have more of a conversation about this when we get to item number 8, but there was, there are different, the advocate for that particular piece of legislation has something very particular in mind in terms of encouraging nursing students in particular to apply for student loan forgiveness for volunteer hours performed in certain kinds of communities. It was, in this case, we thought it was probably best to sort of advance that as a separate item of our legislation. But again, these things might come together again sometime at some later point as the two proposals advance through the process.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I do recognize that it seems specifically in the healthcare area that you have to receive those hours. So in needed areas. So I thank you for that explanation, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Martin.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, this loan program, is this the reimbursement, is that a line item that's in the appropriations as a single line item?
Through you, I'm not through you. It's like I am the chair. The answer is yes. It is a specific line item in the budget.
And what is the total amount that is that line item?
In the current fiscal year, that line item is $6 million.
And we are currently not increasing that amount.
Yeah, I think that's why this says within the available
Available funds.
appropriations, whatever that dollar amount is that made its way into our next budget, that is what would be allocated for the program.
Yes, okay. So we're just basically allowing additional individuals or I guess not industry, but not firemen, but the EMTs.
Yes, this would,
Academy, so they're all going to be competing for the same funds.
they would be competing for the same funds. I would point out that the pool of eligible applicants for this program is actually quite large. It is on a first come, first served basis. It's you know, I think in that respect could really be viewed as a pilot program despite the $6 million cost. We're making, in some cases, we're just clarifying more carefully what we meant by volunteer hours and by the different populations that would be eligible by spelling them out a little bit more clearly in the legislation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Are there any additional questions or comments? Seeing none. The clerk will call the roll on item number 5.
Okay. This is a roll call vote for HB 6074, to JFS to the floor, LCO 6321,
As amended.
as amended.
Yeah.
Senator Slapp,
Yes.
Rep. Haddad, Senator Martin, Rep. Bronco, Senator Gadkar Wilcox,
Yes.
Rep. Rochelle,
Rep. Rochelle votes yes.
Rep. Ackert, Rep. Case, Senator Cohen, Rep. Collins Maine,
Yes.
Rep. DeFranzo, Rep. Farrar,
Yes.
Senator Flexer, Rep. Fortier, Senator Maroney, Rep. Paris, Rep. Sweet,
Yes.
Rep. Weir.
Nope.
And we will hold that vote open until 4 p.m. And proceed on to item number 6, House Bill number 6078, and that concerning the availability of emergency contraception on the campuses of institutions of higher education. Chair will accept a JFS of LCO number 6343. That motion will be JFS this to appropriations. Someone like to make that motion? Representative Farrar makes the motion and is seconded by Representative Sweet. This legislation establishes a small grant program that would allow campuses, institutions of both public and private institutions in Connecticut to first do impanel a small committee to do an assessment of need on their campus, and then subsequently apply for a grant to acquire the equipment necessary to install a vending machine, an emergency contraceptive vending machine on their campus. Are there any questions or comments to be made about this legislation? Representative Ackert.
Thank you. I know we had a robust dialogue on this during the public hearing, and I thought I went line by line on the original language and could not find that substitute change. What was the change in the from the original bill?
Good question. I think you'll find the change in line 3. It changes a shall to a may.
Oh. Boy, I did not pick up on that. How do you not pick up on that? It did, okay, all right. And then a follow-up. I know I looked into this, as I mentioned during the public hearing, and that so many campuses were doing their own fundraising. And they'd raise $3,000 or $4,000 and they were done. I'm not sure if that approach hasn't been had, but right now any campus can have a machine on it. Is that not a fact?
Yes, I believe that's true. Representative Farr, did you want to make any comments with respect to fundraising drives and the state support for this initiative?
Sure. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Acker, for that. Yes, there has been regulations provided by the Department of Consumer Protection. They were just opened in the last year, and so there's only been one license that's been acquired. That's by the UConn Stores campus. And therefore, I'd be curious if you have heard of other fundraising drives, because at this point, there haven't been any other licenses acquired for other vending machines at this point. And one of the thoughts behind putting forward even a small amount of funds is allowing them to be used to jumpstart the acquisition of the vending machine. There certainly would be costs to the institution to keep the vending machine going year to year, and those would be on the institution, but this would just help jumpstart it and hopefully providing an incentive for the organizing to happen on the campus. Through you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, follow up, please. So
Yes, of
could you,
course.
the license piece, so you have to have, the institution has to get like a vending machine license? Is that what it is? For that specific vending machine?
Representative Farrar.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, Representative. 2 years ago in 2023, the legislature passed a bill actually allowing vending machines finally in our state. And that's for all sorts of over-the-counter medicines, including emergency contraception. We were one of the last states to provide that allowance, but it still does require the institution or whoever wants to host a vending machine to acquire a license to do so from the Department of Consumer Protection.
Representative Ackert.
Thank you. Thank you for that information. I know that Husky Thorn just raised $2 million at a dance event. I think the institutions can find if they so wanted to, but that was just a fundraising event. But I can't think of the university that was so proud of what they did, and they raised $3,500 and they had the vending machine on campus and they were done. It was not in Connecticut, probably a place that was allowed licensure more easily, or maybe so. But I thank you for your work on this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, I guess we will have a roll call vote on this item, and the clerk will call the roll on item number 6.
This is a roll call vote on HB 6078, JFS to the Appropriations Committee, LCO number 6343. Senator Slapp,
Senator Slapp votes yes.
Rep. Haddad, Senator Martin, Rep. Bronco, Senator Gadkar Wilcox,
Senator Gadkar Wilcox votes yes.
Rep. Rochelle,
Rep. Rochelle votes yes.
Rep. Ackert, Rep. Case, Senator Cohen, Rep. Collins, Maine,
Collins Maine votes yes.
Rep. DeFranzo, Rep. Farrar,
Yes.
Senator Flexer, Rep. Fortier, Senator Maroney, Rep. Paris, Rep. Sweet,
Rep. Sweet votes yes.
Rep. Weir.
No.
Thank you, and that vote will be left open until 4 o'clock. The next item on our agenda is item number 7, an act expanding the debt-free community college program. Chair will accept a motion to JFS LCO number 6360. Motion's been made by Senator Slapp and seconded by Senator Gadkar Wilcox. There's a pretty substantive alteration to the bill that we heard, and it considerably narrows the eligibility, but gives us a chance to really start something I think potentially very important for Connecticut. The debt-free community college program in Connecticut was established several years ago, and like the approach that we're taking here, started off with more limited eligibility, and it expanded over the time, both as funding became available and as evidence mounted that the program was serving not just the goals for students, individual students looking to acquire an associate's degree, but also the state's own sort of needs in terms of workforce development. This bill, sir, would, in the substitute language, would create a program that says that if you are a PACT receiving or a Handley receiving student at a community college and you're transferring into one of our public 4-year institutions in Connecticut, that we will continue to guarantee that you can acquire that your degree, that now seeking a bachelor's degree without incurring debt. So it's a last dollar approach. We take all existing federal and institutional dollars, apply those to the students' tuition and mandatory fee bill, and then make up the difference through this program to ensure that they don't have to incur debt as along the way of before earning their degree. I think it's a strong statement that we value completion, not just of associate's degrees, but also bachelor's degrees, that we acknowledge that there's a population of students in Connecticut that, really for which we owe a sort of an affordable path to earning a degree. And we know from our, labor and business community that we face serious needs, workforce needs that need to be filled by graduates with bachelor's degrees. I was just at a conference last week. I think I mentioned this at our meeting earlier. We're essentially at full employment in Connecticut. Employers, that people who are seeking a job or finding a job, but employers oftentimes are not finding enough applicants to fill jobs. And so I think that we need to sort of figure out a way to expand the number of qualified workers in our state. And I think that this is a good step towards that path, and I encourage my colleagues to support it. The substitute language deals with all of the language required to sort of narrow the program and give us a shot at having it included in our appropriations budget. And I would encourage my colleagues to support the legislation. Is there any questions or comments? Senator Slapp.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to commend Representative Haddad for coming up with what I think is a creative and kind of elegant solution here. The original proposal was bold, ambitious, and very expensive. This one is bold, ambitious, and less expensive. And so it's also strategic, though. I think it's leveraging what we are already investing in terms of our community college and also the four-year publics. It's good for the students, clearly. And it's going to be good for the universities. And it's going to be also good, I should say, for Connecticut Community College, Connecticut State, because it's incentivizing people to utilize these great campuses, right, and begin their education. And then the on-ramp is going to extend to the four-year schools. And the last thing I would mention is it's going to also, I think, and this is what Representative Haddad touched on, be good for our economy. We know, according to the Office of Workforce Strategy, about 75% of the jobs in Connecticut are going to do require some kind of advanced degree. And we know we're not there. I think we're at about 57% or something. So we know we need to train up the workforce. We want to be the smartest and best trained workforce in the country. And this will help with that as well. So again, thank you to Representative Haddad for, I think, coming up with a really good start and a good idea. And I hope we can support it. Thank you.
Senator Gadkar Wilcox.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to express my strong support for this bill and for this program, and I hope to see it expanded or continue to expand in the future. And for a couple of reasons. First, because this is about access to education. And as an educator, that is critically important to me. I think it's vital for democracy that we strengthen our public institutions all the way from K through 12 through higher education. But it's personal for me too, because my father, who grew up very poor in a little village in India, actually had to live with his aunt in Mumbai. One of his mentors in that little village had to convince his aunt in Mumbai, as I was telling students this morning in Bridgeport for a mentoring program, which is why mentoring is so important, to have him live with her to be able to access an education. And that access to education not only changed his life, but it changed my life. And so when you provide students access to education, you do that for generations to come. And so this is fundamentally important to me on a personal level and then also professionally as an educator. I also, particularly when it comes to our state universities, when we think about the students that after graduation stay and reinvest in this state, that's where you find them. The community colleges, state universities, those students are here. I challenge you to walk into any building, any room, any committee room in this building and to not be able to find somebody that has graduated from one of the state universities or community colleges. They're all over this building and in every sector in Connecticut. And that's really, really important. They're also serving, I would argue, predominantly the largest group of first generation students, underserved students, underrepresented students who then go on to become leaders in those communities in Connecticut, in the state of Connecticut. So this is so vitally important. I just want to thank all the advocates that were here pushing for this for many years, all of the faculty members that put their heart and soul into the work that's going, that, also in Connecticut, and then, helping to sort of revitalize Connecticut in the future, but really serving as models for those students. Investing in education is an investment in democracy, investment in our future. So thank you so much for those who are going to support this bill, and I hope to see it get even more robust as we go forward.
Senator Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have a couple questions. So currently we have students in the community college who are receiving this debt-free college education. So how many of them currently are going on to a higher ed to finish their junior and senior years?
That's a good question. I have that number somewhere in my office. I don't have it with me right now. I think we're talking about several hundred, maybe low thousands.
That do that.
Yes.
Currently, they are without this program. Excuse me. They are receiving debt-free college, and how many are going on to a university to complete their bachelor's degree without this bill in front of us?
Yes, I think, I mean, I don't know how many how many are currently receiving the PAC program. I can tell you that there's a transfer and articulation program, a robust one between the community colleges and the state universities, as well as with UConn. We encourage folks to go try to get a more affordable education by going to the community college for the first 2 years, and then they can transfer those credits into the CSU system. But just like we had a community college system that was servicing students prior to the inception of our debt-free community college program, we certainly have students for whom they are able to make this leap now. What we don't know is how many drop off because they can't make this leap.
So we don't know how many will be joining. Excuse me. So we don't know how many drop out or drop off and take that leap. Is that what I heard or understand here?
Yeah, I would say specifically, we don't know how many are falling off because they can't afford to go to the 4-year
How
institution.
many are anticipated on taking this leap if we do pass this bill?
I can remember in round numbers that we're talking about something on the order of a cost analysis I saw said that this would cost $8 million in the first year. And I could try to do the division about, between students, but I think that means a couple thousand. I think that, Senator Slapp was alluding to an anticipated increase in enrollment. I think the total number of students that some experts who are looking at this would anticipate is that enrollment of students from the community college to the state university system would increase by maybe 7%. So there is a certain number of students that for whom this would be important enough that we would see those students arrive at the state university system who might not otherwise arrive at the state university system, but for a program like this.
And how many, is this going to be an appropriations, a line item in appropriations? Or is this an assumption that the universities are going to be picking up the cost of this?
This would be an additional line item appropriations if we're able to secure one in the state budget.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Ackert.
Thank you. The good senator and ranking member asked a lot of my questions, so he checked off a lot of those already. That's fantastic, though. I got to listen in. I guess mine comes a little bit on fairness, and I'm thinking about the CSCU student right now that is in similar financial situation as maybe somebody in the community college, and they're paying their way, and they get the year 3, and then a community college student comes debt-free and now is sitting next to them in the desk in the same class, still debt-free, while the CSCU student still paying tuition. And so was there any thought that we thought about, and I get it, the drop-off, I get the drop-off component of it. But if we are able to assist the first 2 years of college for the CSCU systems and UConn, and then, come up with another way. That's the only thing that comes to mind, is that how does that piece play into the current CSCU students and the UConn students that are paying their way, maybe in similar financial situations as an individual that's now in our community colleges and is now placed tuition-free continuation for their four-year institutions?
I'm not sure there's really a question there. I think it's a choice. I acknowledge that. I'm gathering that you are a more substantial fan of the original legislation. The fiscal note would have been substantially higher, and I fear might have been a promise that we could not have met or kept. And so, in doing so, in putting forward this proposal, we felt like, as Senator Slapp said, we're taking an investment that we've already made in some students at the community college level, and encouraging them to take the additional step of getting a four-year degree, using the same guarantee that we provided to them. Moving forward, I think that students would be able to choose, if they so desired, to attend 2 years of community college, taking full advantage of the PACT program, and then transferring into a four-year institution, and could take the same path. But I will acknowledge that there are some, for a brief amount of time, a couple of years, there will be some students for whom that option was not open, but it becomes open for others. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess a more follow-up comment, and I appreciate the information provided, that I would think that many with CSCUs right now are luckily have a 6% increase in student enrollment just recently, and they were on a downturn for quite a while. I'm hoping that we get the word out, but then I think I would hope that individuals think about using our community college to start off with, and then go on to the CSCUs. But then I can see maybe a lot of CSCU systems, they're a third and fourth year school rather than a first, second, so it's interesting. If there's any other dialogue, I'll listen to that. I'm not sure where I'm at this level right now. So thank you for that information. I appreciate it.
I see Senator Martin, do you have another question? And after we go back to you, I'll call in Representative Weir.
Sorry, no, go. Sorry, no.
Representative Weir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the intent of this. I think we hear lots of stories of people's lives being changed by the opportunity to go to college. I guess I would like to point out, I think if we're headed towards a budget showdown, as it were, or making some really tough budgetary decisions in the next couple of months. From where I sit, I think we have to be very cautious of implementing new initiatives where there's going to be a fiscal note. I know that at the end of the day, the appropriations process, they'll be the ones making well, I believe with some input, I'm sure outside input, but they're going to have to decide and prioritize. And I think there'll be some tough decisions that are going to have to be made over the next few months. Beyond that, just from an economic standpoint, if I take away the argument of those who kind of scrimped and worked and kind of did the grind in order to put themselves through college, if I put that aside, we have, from an economic perspective, when we offer this as free to the end user, that cost is being picked up by, the taxpayer and somebody else. And I think by doing so, we open the door by subsidizing this. We open the door for our higher education system, and this isn't just a Connecticut thing. This is nationally, and economics just has a way of working out. We tend to keep the cost high when we subsidize it. So by we give no incentive to the college system to work for ways to make their pricing more affordable for those people coming in. If we automatically, and the same goes for student loans. Why has college tuition increased over the course of, the past few decades, astronomically, exponentially is the word I'm looking for. Part of it has to do with the easy flow of money, the readiness of money, and of course we end up with students with high debt, but it's easy to get, and the colleges have no incentive to watch their costs. So I want to be cautious there. I don't want to belabor this. I appreciate the intent. I don't want to be insulting to the intent, because I think it's a good one. But we also have kids who, may not belong in college. I fall in that category. And if it's free, it's a lot easier to end up somewhere that you may not belong, because people are telling you that that's probably where you should be, versus having to make a decision. Is this, if I got to pay for it, and I'm going to have to, it's going to have to come out of my own pocket 100%. I'm either going to appreciate it a lot more, or I may choose against it. And we've got many other ways to earn a living, a good living, an honorable living, one that you can support your family, do very well, be satisfied. And that could be the trades, that could be entrepreneurship. There's a number of ways that people can succeed in life, getting educated along the way. Hopefully they can do all the above. Thank you for indulging me. I cannot support this today, but I appreciate giving me the time.
Thank you for sharing your comments with us. Senator Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We all know and understand the value of education. Most of us here in this room, probably all of us in this room. And if I heard you, Mr. Chair, this costs us $6 million, or is it 9?
I've seen an estimate for this that doesn't come from the Office of Fiscal Analysis.
You.
It comes from some advocates who employed some very smart people to do an estimate. And it would be somewhere in the $8 or $9 million range. But I would just say as well that the motion here in front of us would be to send this to the floor. And I think one of the reasons to tend to send to this to the floor is so that our own Office of Fiscal Analysis could do their analysis and give us a better number.
I would imagine this is going to go to appropriations after this.
We can't, I've searched long and hard for a way to spend money without it going through the Appropriations Committee. I haven't found it yet. So yes, it would be a mandatory
Okay.
referral to the Appropriations Committee.
Yeah, so, to the point regarding that, it going to the appropriations is it'll be competing against other services and other line items in the budget. And, who knows what those cuts may be, should this be sort of elevated to a priority or not. My thought is, having sat on finance and still do, but sat as a ranking member and hearing the cry from the universities, Dr. Cheng and company, regarding their needs for bonding, and also not only that, but the demand that has been placed on the universities to find efficiencies and cuts. And I know it impacts our local community colleges because, we understand the restructuring that's taking place right now. They're going from X amount of, CEOs or executives or presidents of each of the universities, and they're consolidating. So they are looking for those consolidations in order to save on costs. But this bill would, somewheres along the line, is going to add a cost somewhere. Somebody's got to pay for it one way or another. Regarding the free college that we have currently now in the community colleges, I feel that on our part as a state, we have reached out a hand to anyone who wanted to go and start that higher ed journey. And I see it as a hand up. Hey, here's an opportunity for you. I'm also in the camp of not everything's for free. And the appreciation the value of earning something is much different than when everything is given you for free. And I feel that if we continue down this path of providing free education across the spectrum, the continuum of education, that value will be lost or shortchanged a bit. And I don't know if there's a winner in that, particularly if someone takes advantage of it and then decides to go down. I don't know where it would lead to, but from my perspective, when you earn something, when you work for something, and you receive it, what you work so hard for, you truly appreciate it. I don't know if providing a full debt-free education, you gain that same respect, that same value as if you actually worked for it. And then to address or to sort of support what Representative Ackred said, how fair is this to those that have entered CS, Central Connecticut University, as a freshman and paid their way versus those that have entered the college the community college system and have received debt-free tuition. And now they go up, spend 2 years, and now they move on to the junior and senior year. And now they meet someone who's been there since a freshman. One is receiving continued debt-free college, but here's the other one who started out pretty much in the same position, but chose to go to Central Connecticut immediately, but has paid their way and will continue to pay their way. I don't see the fairness in that. So I'm going to be a no, Mr. Chair, on this. So thank you for allowing me to speak a second time.
Thank you very much. I'm going to let Senator Gadkar Wilcox make another remark in just a moment, but I just wanted to say, I'm a strong supporter of student-centric scholarship programs that help folks earn a degree. There's two things I just wanted to say, and I don't think you really mean to say, to imply that students who are earning a 4-year degree or an associate's degree aren't working for those degrees. Obviously, I remember what my college education was like. The work is hard, just being there and trying to learn what you're trying to learn. It's, I was a physics major when I was in college. I had to take quantum mechanics twice because when you get a D in the first half of quantum mechanics, it doesn't give you a lot of confidence going into the second half of quantum mechanics. I remember, obviously it's the academic pursuit itself is the work that we expect of our college. And I know that you don't mean to diminish that work that they put in to sort of earn that degree and gain their own expertise. Likewise, I have never heard a student sort of express resentment because other students at the university are getting scholarships based on need or merit. We know at the University of Connecticut, there's you could probably name 15 students who play basketball who all have a free ride and provide a real value. When I talk to folks at the university, students, they want to be friends with those folks. I mean, they're not harboring any long-term resentment. And so, I think that there are inequities in the system itself as it currently exists. We don't try to sort of pass a judgment on those inequities. Here, we're opening a program and opening access to students who I think are well deserving of it, who have demonstrated at the community college level that they deserve the chance to earn a bachelor's degree, and for whom we want to make sure that the cost is not a barrier. We know that they will put in the effort required to earn their degree, and we know that they're well deserving of some additional support as well. And so, I appreciate all the remarks of my colleagues, and I don't think I'm changing minds here, but I do want to just make sure that we know this. Senator Sujata Wilcox, you're next. I'm sorry, Gadkar Wilcox. Senator Slapp.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a point of clarification. I know my good friends on the other side of the aisle know this, so I just want to make sure that the public understands that we're not talking about free college, that it's the last dollar. And what that means, for folks who maybe aren't familiar with it, is that so you apply, you fill out the FAFSA, and then the family would and the student would get back the financial information that would say, okay, and if they're, let's say as an example, they're come from a low income family, then they may get back news that they qualify for a Pell Grant or some kind of federal financial aid. And then in addition, there may be a piece where they say, okay, and this is the expected family contribution, right? Of how much we expect the family can afford to pay each year. I'm in the middle of this. I have 2 children in college right now. So, I mean, I know exactly, right, kind of how it works. And then they say, and here's an additional part that is going to, we expect the student, it's either unmet need or the student can take out a loan. Sometimes that's a subsidized loan, sometimes it's unsubsidized, and you're just free to go out and find, a source to borrow that money. So when we talk about debt-free, it's that last piece that the state is picking up. It's not the family contribution piece, so that the student it still has skin in the game, of course, and if it's deemed by the financial aid folks that the family can afford to pay something out of pocket, then they do that. So we're talking about last dollar, which is that loan piece, which who knows, if we get good enough with helping folks avoid loans through Roberta Willis and through programs like this, then we may not need, what is it, item number 8 on the agenda, which is not item number 8, it's a different one. But anyway, it's these programs after the fact to help alleviate burdensome student loans. So the idea is maybe we get this on the front end, and that would be a good approach. All right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Gedgar Wilcox.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, for letting me speak one more time. And just fully support and appreciate the comments made by both co-chairs. And this really does sometimes stand in the way of a student having the opportunity to be in college or not. And that makes a difference for students in need. Certainly, again, students who otherwise, this is their first and maybe perhaps only opportunity that could not only change their life, but for generations to come. I wanted to respond to a comment made by Representative Ackert that, luckily, enrollment has increased at the state universities. And I just want to state and that that's not by luck. I know a lot of the members of the state universities that have been putting a lot of work into, despite declining sort of demographics, not in favor on the Northeast for all of universities, despite increasing cuts based on sort of declining enrollments over a 10-year period, which includes, we're thinking about the impacts of the pandemic that have impacted everyone. They're still looking for utilizing all resources available on their campus to try to reach out to as many students as possible. So I think it's absolutely remarkable that in these past couple of years, there has been an enrollment increase. And I just want to applaud the efforts for everybody who is part of that work on all college campuses, every CSU and every community college, because that's remarkable. It's very difficult to do. We know it, all of us in higher education, we're all facing the same sort of stress factors. We're all looking for students, and many of us at private universities are pulling from other states. So what has been done to increase enrollment is absolutely incredible, and I want to applaud that, and I want to applaud all the work and effort that went into that. And this is also then, this is demonstrating our commitment and our investment in those universities, and an acknowledgement that we see that work, we see that it's paying off, we see that it'll be even strengthened even more in the future, and that's what voting for this as an initial step will do. And again, I hope that we continue and this becomes even more robust going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments? Representative DeFranco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank you for your work on this program. I think it's something that is really important to young people in the state. And, I do want to agree partly with what Senator Martin said. I have a lot of respect for you, Senator. And I wish we did live in a state where we did not have to provide help to people to go to college. But the reality is that we don't have a level playing field in this state for a lot of kids coming out of high school. And there are a number of kids, because of the circumstances of their families, that need some help. And I think this is a type of program that we can provide some of that assistance. Like we said, it's not a free ride. There's still hard work that has to be done. But it gives some of those students who may not have the opportunity to take advantage of a college experience, to give them that initial chance. So I thank you for your work on this, and I appreciate the efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, the clerk will call a roll call vote on item number 7.
This is a roll call vote for HB 6885 to JFS to the floor, and it's LCO number 6360. Senator Slapp,
Yes.
Rep Haddad, Senator Martin, Rep Bronco, Senator Gadkar Wilcox.
Yes.
Rep Rochelle,
Rep Rochelle votes yes.
Rep Ackert, Rep Case, Senator Cohen, Rep Collins Maine,
Yes.
Rep DeFranco, Rep Farrar,
Yes.
Senator Flexer, Rep Fortier, Senator Maroney, Rep Paris, Rep Sweet,
Yes.
Rep Weir.
No?
Thank you. That vote will be held open until 4 o'clock. The next item on the agenda is item number 8, House Bill number 6886, an act establishing a nursing student loan reimbursement program. Chair will accept a motion to JFS LCO number 6358. And who would like to make that motion? Motion's been made by Senator Gadkar Wilcox and seconded by Senator Slapp. I'm going to reverse it up a little bit this time. Is there this legislation we talked about briefly a little bit earlier? This does establish what would be a new student nursing student loan reimbursement program for licensed, registered, or practical nurses. The grant, it is, I think, modeled after the broader student loan program already established, with some additional requirements that the volunteer service happen in very specific medically underserved areas. The substitute language makes some changes, including removing the requirement that that the nonprofit nurse, requiring the nonprofit to volunteer for a 501c3, and expanding some of the areas that can be counted for the volunteer service. Are there questions or comments regarding this piece of legislation? Senator Martin.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, this bill, should it be go through the process, it will also draw from the current pool of funding that we have established, correct?
Through you, not again, I'm sorry, through myself. No, I think that this is envisioned to be, and the legislation would set up a standalone program. And I think that is done at least partly so that when we send this to the floor and we do an analysis of it, we can sort of separate out the cost of performing this responsibility. It's substantially different than the other student loan program as well, because the hours are much more limited. The geographic area where you can achieve those hours is more limited in the purpose. And also the receiving population, the target population, is much more substantially more smaller. And so it's currently envisioned as a separate standalone project that would need its own line appropriation.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Weir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just on the dollars and cents part of this, I see, just got to find the line. 43 to 45 talks about the reimbursement payments to students. And it says not to exceed $5,000. So is there an expectation that this could be one student? And it looks like $5,000 for 50 hours, so $100 an hour. So if a student, would it be prorated? If a student shows completion of 20 hours, is the expectation that that would be, if 50 hours equals 5,000, that maybe 20 hours equals 2,000 or something like that? For you?
Yes, no, the $5,000 is a cap on the total amount that someone could be reimbursed. This program, like the other program, it's a reimbursement program. You have to demonstrate that you've made payments to your student loan of a certain dollar amount. That's up to, we'll reimburse them up, an accepted applicant up to $5,000. But it's only for payments that they can demonstrate that they've made to their student loans or to pay off their student loans.
Maybe I don't think I asked my question clearly. In order to qualify for the reimbursement, as I read this, now you're clarifying that they had to pay that money first. This is a reimbursement, but isn't the volunteer component of this? Am I reading this right? They also have to complete 50 hours of volunteer service?
Yes, they have to, in order to be eligible for any student loan reimbursement, you need to complete 50 hours. And so once you've completed 50 hours, you're eligible to reimburse the dollar amount up to $5,000 that you paid for in your student loans. So if you've only paid off $2,500 of your student loans, you'll only be able to receive 20. So the prorated, we don't prorate the amount, we just limit it based on somebody who's crossed the threshold. Right. Are there any additional questions or comments? Senator Martin?
So if you do the math on this here for the $5,000 max, 50-hour minimum, that's $100 an hour compared to I think it was HB 6074, the current program. I thought that was like only $50 an hour. Is that correct?
No, the existing program also has a limit of $5,000. I think the experience so far reported to us through the Office of Higher Education is that the applicants that are currently being approved in that program on average are getting reimbursements of something like $2,000 to $2,500, but that's based on the applicants' payments into the system. For their student loans.
But they still have to work the minimum 50 hours?
They still have to work the minimum for 50 hours, yes.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Are there any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, the clerk will call a roll on item number 8.
This is a roll call vote for HB 6886 to JFS to the floor, and it's LCO number 6358. Senator Slapp,
Senator Slapp votes yes.
Rep. Haddad, Senator Martin, Rep. Bronco, Senator Gadkar Wilcox,
Yes.
Rep. Rochelle,
Rep. Rochelle votes yes.
Rep. Ackert, Rep. Case, Senator Cohen, Rep. Collins Maine,
Yes.
Rep. DeFranzo, Rep. Farrar,
Yes.
Senator Flexer, Rep. Fortier, Senator Maroney, Rep. Paris, Rep. Sweet,
Yes.
Rep. Weir.
No.
Senator Martin? Okay.
Next item is item number 9, House Bill number 7099, an act funding journalism fellowships for graduates of public institutions of higher education. The chair will accept the motion to JF this item to the Appropriations Committee. Motion's been made by Representative Farrar and seconded by Senator Slapp. there any, this item is to establish a very limited journalism fellowship program where the state would provide, would create a program through the Office of Higher Education to establish journalism fellowship program that would fund maybe as many as 12 journalism fellowships. Certain journalism news organizations could apply for funding, which would allow them to hire additional help into that sector of the economy. Are there any questions or comments about this legislation? Senator Slapp.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I want to commend my colleague Representative Farrar for her leadership on this issue. You know what, there's that saying, I think it's by Edward R. Murrow, about a free press. It doesn't protect democracy, it is democracy. And it's critically important to how, specifically how government works, that we have a robust press. And this committee saw a perfect example of that when we have a bill that we passed, JF, just, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, about improving accountability and transparency in higher education. I don't take any pride in what I'm about to say, but I don't know if we would have been passing that bill or if we would have had the spending under the microscope in the same way that we did at the central office with the CSCU system if it wasn't for a reporter and great pieces of journalism, which we all learned from. And that's a perfect example of how that serves a common good. And we know newsrooms all across, not just state issue, obviously, all across this country are hemorrhaging reporters. And we might not always, as public officials, we might not always like what they say, but I think we probably all agree that we need them there. And at the same time, government funding journalism that's supposed to be a watchdog gets a little dicey, a little tricky, right? So how do we thread that needle to say that we all have a stake in having a robust, free, and independent press, media, and helping to support that without having government directly tied to it, because that can lead to unintended consequences. So I think this really does kind of thread the needle, and it's an interesting approach, and one that I think we all have a stake in trying to find out what is the solution to help create some more sustainable models where we can walk up to whether it be the Capitol Press Room or newsrooms across the state and see more reporters doing good work. So again, thank you to Representative Farrar for her leadership on this, and I hope we can pass this and continue the conversation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Additional questions or comments? Representative Ackert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm, went through some testimony. And are we just finding out that people aren't interested or going into the journalism world? Because I know people that want to be journalists. Is it just what are we solving? What are we trying to support? What are we trying to do with the legislation? I guess what I'm reading that some individuals put in. What was the genesis of the legislation, if I may ask? Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for the question. I'm going to let Representative Farrar field that question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the good representative. We have some good conversation between the two of us today. Welcome it. So to your point, I think Senator Slapp spoke to this a little bit, but one of the reasons we've been losing so many local newsrooms is just the fact that they can't stay in business. The revenue to support their business model doesn't exist anymore. And therefore, what you've seen is that not only are we, down, in the last 10 years, 65% of our local news reporters, but it's really meant that the news organizations can't hire new people. They don't have the revenue in order to do that. And therefore, this proposal, which is based on a fellowship model that 4 other states have, is meant to really support some students that are coming out with a fellowship to really build the capacity of these newsrooms so they can cover more stories that are important to us locally and at the state level. Through you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Ackert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I thank the good representative. I look at work that we've done in the past, and we use a different term for it, and it's called apprenticeship. And we have a strong support for apprenticeships that get businesses get reimbursed. I'm not sure if we're just using a different term here and saying fellowship, but we have the same programs, and we've enormous support for apprenticeship program in all aspects. And we have a fund already set up, I believe, and I'm not sure if it's not something the Office of Workforce Strategy does. So I may be a no on this, but at this point, I'm just curious that is it not another way that we can do this rather than creating another fund that we may already have existing that we should look into? And I think that is an area that but we'll listen to other dialogue on it. So I thank you for that opportunity and the response from the good representative. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Are there any additional remarks? Representative Farrar.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. And thank you for that last acknowledgement of our robust apprenticeship programs, which are excellent. In the apprenticeship model, it does require a contribution, right, on behalf of the employer to that apprenticeship. And the reason that the states and this approach here in Connecticut is a fellowship model is that these needs organizations, again, are just squeaking by. They don't have on hand the revenue that might be needed to approach this more from an apprenticeship structure. And that's why the fellowship model has been used in these 4 other states with the new graduates. Also, the new graduates are particularly in the journalism programs at the universities, and therefore it's a nice pathway for them out of school into the journalism field. Through you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions or comments?
Representative
Ackert's at the button. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, thank you. We should just talk, we should, thank you for that. I got to say that the state of Connecticut in the state departments use a very robust fellowship programs in our departments. And they are, just as you said, people that are working in the, they're in college now, and they are then sent to the departments, our departments, and they are fellowships. And I think it's the governor's fellowship program. So thank you for that clarification on the differences.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments?
Yeah.
Senator Martin.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So regarding the Office of Workforce Strategy, I don't recall seeing anything regarding journalism, regarding any type of workforce development. I could be wrong, but I'm going to be a yes on this because I don't recall seeing any, and maybe this is something that they should be looking at. And if this does manage to get through, it's something for them to take a look at. Or if it doesn't get through anyway, it might be something that will be on her radar going forward as well. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Martin. Are there any additional questions or comments? Representative Weir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Will, as I'm looking at this, if the appropriations or I guess if Office of Higher Education is going to fund this, is this from existing appropriations that they'll pull from somewhere else, or is this going to be a new appropriation?
The answer, I guess, would be a likely new appropriation. Are there any additional questions? Seeing none, the clerk will call a roll call on item number 9.
This is a roll call vote on HB 7099 to JF2 Appropriations Committee. Senator Slapp?
Senator Slapp votes yes.
Rep Haddad? Senator Martin? Rep Bronco? Senator Gadkar Wilcox?
Yes.
Rep Rochelle?
Rep. Rochelle votes yes.
Rep Ackert? Rep Case? Senator Cohen? Rep Collins Maine?
Yes.
Rep DeFranzo? Rep Farrar?
Yes.
Senator Flexer? Rep Fortier? Senator Maroney? Rep Paris? Rep Sweet?
Yes.
Rep Weir?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to our last item, item number 10, House Bill number 7131, an act concerning financial aid for students in paramedic certificate programs. This is, Chair will accept a motion to JFS LCO number 6359. Somebody like to make the motion? See Representative Rochelle is making the motion. Is there a second to the motion? Representative Sweet. This is, I'm glad to see Representative Rochelle online. I wanted to sort of compliment her for her thought and care in putting this legislation together. It aims at solving a particular problem for students in paramedic certificate programs that aren't necessarily institutions of higher education. And so the students there aren't eligible for some of the same financial aid that other students might be eligible for. This tasks the Office of Workforce Strategy to identify and seek a solution to this problem. And the substitute language changes some dates around reporting and providing of information and reporting to this committee. Is there, I'm going to call on Representative Rochelle, who's joining us remotely first, to make some comments, and then I'll go to Representative Ackert.
Thank you so much, Chairman Haddad. I just want to thank the committee for their attention on this issue. Paramedics are critical for life-saving purposes and are such an important part of our workforce. And they face particular challenges because many of them are EMTs to start. EMTs do not make a lot of money, and in fact, the cost of education is a quarter of their annual salary. And unlike a typical university system where you can take out student loans or get financial aid, they don't really have very many financial aid options. In fact, only 1 out of 10 programs have any financial aid options. And while they do have payment plans, they cannot get their certifications until after they've paid off their studies. So it really presents a serious challenge to getting people into the paramedic workforce and even getting people to access this education. So this is an important bill. I appreciate the committee's work on this, and I look forward to continuing this conversation.
Representative Rochelle, stand ready to answer some questions. I think
Sure.
that might be some. Representative Ackert, do you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And when I looked at the original language, it was lines 1 through 7, I believe, which we had put on consent when we were discussing it. And then I saw the substitute language, I believe, adds the requirement that the OWS shall develop and implement a financial aid program. That's new language. Has the OWS, and can I have documentation that says that they are on board with this addition? Through you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Rochelle.
Sure. So I have had conversations, and in fact, the Office of Workforce Strategy has applied for a federal grant that addresses financial resources for non-university programs in the workforce that don't have traditional financial aid. They have been actively working at seeing if they can fit that into or align that with the paramedic program needs. They also are looking at looking if they can align the paramedic program with university criteria in order to qualify it for university aid. So they are actively pursuing this, which I'm quite grateful for, taking a look at how we can best support this workforce. I can look to see if I have any emails about it. I've had many conversations. If you were at the information session we had with the Office of Workforce Strategy, we spoke with Dr. Kelly Valeris afterwards about this as well. But I'd be happy to get you into a conversation with her. She's been a great partner at taking all concerns about the workforce seriously.
Representative Ackert.
Yeah, thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, and I thank you. I did attend that, and I thank you for putting that together with Dr. Valerie's on that. I may flag this until I get verification on this. But again, without the mandatory component of the financial aid program and what their dollars are allocated for, it is important. The good representative does bring up a good point about our paramedics and the need for additional support. But at this point, I'm going to flag it till I get verification that the OWS is on board with that. So I thank the good work on this and look forward to possibly being a yes on the floor with that verification. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Ackert. Are there any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, the clerk will call a roll call on item number 10.
This is a roll call vote for HB 7131, JFS to the floor, and it's LCO number 6359. Senator Slapp,
Senator Slav votes yes.
Rep. Haddad, Senator Martin, Rep. Bronco, Senator Gadkar Wilcox,
Yes.
Rep. Rochelle,
Rep. Rochelle votes yes.
Rep. Ackert, Rep. Case, Senator Cohen, Rep. Collins, Maine,
Yes.
Rep. DeFranco, Rep. Farrar,
Yes.
Senator Flexer, Rep. Fortier, Senator Maroney, Rep. Paris, Rep. Sweet,
Rep. Sweet votes yes.
Rep. Weir.
Yes.
Thank you. Representative Sweet, am I forgetting anything?
The good consent calendar.
A consent calendar. Right, we have a consent calendar on items number 1, 2, 3, and 4. The clerk can call a roll call on the consent calendar.
Senator Slapp,
Yes.
Rep. Haddad, Senator Martin, Rep. Bronco, Senator Gadkar Wilcox,
Yes.
Rep. Rochelle,
Rochelle votes yes.
Rep. Ackert, Rep. Case, Senator Cohen, Rep. Collins, Maine,
Yes.
Rep. DeFranco, Rep. Farrar,
Yes.
Senator Flexer, Rep. Fortier, Senator Maroney, Rep. Paris, Rep. Sweet,
Rep. Sweet votes yes.
Rep. Weir.
Yes.
Thank you very much. The next item, those votes, we're going to hold votes open until 4 o'clock. It's another 52 minutes. If you have friends or colleagues who are not here, please feel free to text them. We'll endeavor to do the same. The next item on the agenda is the announcement and time of the next date of our next meeting. I'm pleased to say that I think that this concludes the work of the Higher Education Committee in terms of the work that we've originated here in this committee. And I wanted to just take a moment just to sort of thank some folks for their help in getting us to this point. First, I really wanted to send my sincere thanks to our two ranking members, Representative Bronco and Senator Martin, both new to the committee. And I just wanted to thank you very much for your collaboration. We haven't always agreed. We try to get into agreement all the time, but I can honestly say that I think that you've both contributed pretty substantially to the work of this committee. We appreciate you working with us to make our bills better and to find agreement on most of the items that came out of this committee. And I think that we're going to have some broad areas of agreement on bills that we'll act on the House floor and on the Senate floor, and that's in no small part due to your contributions to the committee. Additionally, I wanted to recognize our committee staff. Megan and Tom are sitting over there doing very diligent work even now, making sure that the committee is working and that our votes are recorded and the intent of this, what we do on this committee is sort of followed through on. I really appreciate particularly Megan's work as my legislative aide as well. I wanted to thank her for, again, also new to this committee, new to being a clerk. Thank you very much for your help. We have our nonpartisan staff. They're disappearing. But a couple of them are left. Sarah from OLR and Chris who from OLR. Thank you very much for your contributions to the committee. Noreen from LCO and Dan from OFA have been behind the scenes offering us a wide variety of specific expertise that we really need in order to do our jobs. And we appreciate you and all that you bring to the work of the committee. And I wanted to, I will thank and then hand this over to my co-chair, Senator Slapp. We've served on this committee together for a couple of years. I couldn't ask for a better co-chair and collaborator on these issues. He cares, I know, as deeply about these issues as I do, and I really appreciate his partnership in terms of leadership of this committee. So thank you very much for joining us, and our two vice chairs as well, Senator Gadkar Wilcox, who brings a a wealth of experience to our committee, and Representative Rochelle, who brings a passion for workforce development to this committee, and I appreciate all the work that you've done. Senator Slapp, do you have any additional comments?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to begin, of course, with thanking our great staff and really for, we couldn't do it without them. So thank you. We have some new staff members too, new clerk, assistant clerk. So thank you for all that you did to help this be, I think, a successful session on the Higher Education Committee. We may, who knows, reconvene if we get a referral or something like that. It probably is the last time. And thank members as part of our Democratic caucus. We have a lot of new members here too. So it's always a great collaboration, and we learn from them as well. I try to, approach service with a good deal of humility, intellectual humility, which I think is a key. And then our new ranking members, thank you for your partnership and your collaboration. Representative Haddad, I think, nailed it when he really said it's been a very pleasurable experience. And, I don't want to sound like the beginning of Jerry Maguire's mission statement. That's a blast from the past. We said we live in cynical times. Anyone remembers that? Yeah. One of my favorite movies. Anyway, but we do. A lot of people are very cynical about government, and they think it's broken and that the two parties, all they do is fight, et cetera. And that may be true in Washington, but it's not true in Hartford. And so I think, how we're able to operate together, both parties, we make the process smooth, and most importantly, the policy is better when everybody has an input, and I think that's certainly our governing philosophy here. So anyway, thank you for everything, and we will see where these pieces of legislation go going forward. So we'll continue the conversations. But thanks again, everyone.
Senator Martin.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I couldn't have said it better, from both of you, particularly the last piece of regarding the participation. I'm a firm believer of allowing people to speak. You may not agree with what that person may be saying, philosophically or politically or whatever it may be, but it's the expression, being allowed to speak, and how you feel or what your beliefs are is so vital and so important. But as important is to the listening portion of it, right? So you're given the ability, that freedom to speak, but also the listening, I think, is critical as well, to maybe try to better understand. And here we are at higher ed, and that's what we're asked to do, right? That's think with reason, to be intelligent, to work at increasing your intelligence, to better understand where the other side is. It is so different than Washington. I believe so. I've been sitting here for 10 years, different committees, and get along with a lot of people. And I think by the time we're all done with the legislative process in almost any given season or session, is we agree on a considerable amount of bills together. So, Mr. Chairs, thank you both for being so open to Seth and myself. This was our very first time on this committee, first year. It's been enjoyable. Thank you for bearing with me for not attending all the screenings and all the public hearings. When we're only 11, you got to wear multiple hats. So if any of you would like to change party affiliations and come on over here, we could use the help. But thank you, Vice Chairs as well. Megan, Tom, Sarah, Chris, Noreen, Dan. Thank you so much. And lastly, I do want to thank Jared Pico, who's filled in for me. He's away on vacation this week, but he was, my eyes and my ears on this committee. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Bronco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Everything has been well said already, and you came in my first term, and just when you think you've starting to figure things out, you became a ranking member, and you go right back to square one trying to figure things out. So I do want to thank you guys. You walk into the elusive screening room for the first time, you have no idea what to expect, but every step along the way, you guys were welcoming, open, and allowed our input and discussion every step of the way. Never did I feel that we were left to the side and you guys were going to do your own thing. So I do appreciate you guys allowing us to, I think, truly work together to accomplish some positive things and some good work in the committee. Especially coming in on a new committee. So everything was kind of unknown to me. And again, the welcomeness that I felt made it much easier to adapt and get used to. So I do thank you guys for that. I look forward to continuing to work with you as we move through this session and the rest of the year and next year. So thank you for that. And I do want to thank all the nonpartisan staff. You guys make it easy. When you think you have to figure it out, you realize there's all this staff here to help you and make you look good. From the background information to these beautiful binders for every meeting, you make it very easy. So thank you for all your help. I want to thank my caucus members. I'm fortunate to come onto this committee with several veterans that also make it easier for me with the help. So thank you to them. And then I do want to just shout out our caucus researcher, Connor, for his work in helping us read through the bills and really get through all the material. So thank you very much. And I look forward to finishing out this session strong. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And so with that, we will recess. Members have until 4 o'clock to cast their votes. And as Senator Slapp said, we'll reconvene when and if a bill gets referred to our committee. Thank you very much for your service on the committee.
Hi, Rep Paris.
Hey, Megan, how are you? That's okay.
Okay. So there's a consent calendar for items 1 through 4. Can you hear
Rep
me?
Harris votes yes.
Okay.
I can.
Okay. All right. And then HB 6074, that was JFS to the floor. Do you want me to read the titles?
Yes, please.
So that one is an act concerning the student loan reimbursement program. And there's substitute language of LCO 6321.
He saw vision. He said, I know that one too well.
Wait, I can't, hold on, I'm gonna move to my desk because I cannot hear you. 1 second, sorry. Okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I vote yes on 6840.
Okay. Where did I put that? Now I'm like.
So. Yes.
6840?
Or, sorry, I may have mixed it up.
Okay, is that 6078? No, that's the emergency classroom. 6074.
Yes.
Okay. There was there was an amendment on that one actually, and they did a voice vote. Where is it? The amendment.
It's not gonna be easy. I mean, I don't see.
Sorry. They did a voice vote on the amendment for that one. I
Mhm.
don't think there's any action needed to take on that, right? But you voted yes. for that. Okay. So then that was 6074.
Here's something that people don't talk about. Today you have free.
I didn't take my agenda with me. Oh my God. I'm like I'm realizing this is on YouTube, so I'm sorry if this is.
It's okay.
embarrassing.
No, don't worry.
Let me pull up my agenda really quick because I left it in the committee room. Sorry, I'm taking up so much of your time here.
No, don't worry, don't worry.
Okay. Agenda. Okay, so we did 6078. So that's 6885 is next. So this was an act expanding the debt-free community college program, and it was JFS to the floor with substitute language of LCO number 6360.
Yes.
Okay. And then next is HB 6886, an act establishing a nursing student loan reimbursement program. And this was also JFS to the floor with LCO number 6358.
Yes.
Okay. Next is HB 7099, an act funding journalism fellowships for graduates of public institutions of higher education. And this was JF to appropriations.
Yes.
Okay. And then HB 7131, an act concerning financial aid for students in paramedic certificate programs. And this was JFS to the floor, LCO 6359.
Yes.
Okay. Next SB 977, an act protecting participants in Title IX proceedings. Oh wait, no, that was on the consent calendar. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
That was it.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. I'll take that for now.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Anything in it?
Is my agenda there?
You need the,
Yes. Hi, Senator Maroney.
Hey, what's up, Megan? How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Okay. So we had, I'm just trying to pull up the agenda. So there is a consent calendar for items 1 through 4. Do you want me to read the bills?
No, that's okay. I
Okay.
looked over. So Senator Maroney votes yes.
Okay. So next is HB 6078, and that was JFS to appropriations.
Okay, Senator Maroney votes yes.
Okay. HB 6885, JFS to the floor.
Senator Maroney votes yes.
Awesome. HB 6886, JFS to the floor.
Senator Maroney votes yes.
Okay. HB 7099, that was JF to appropriations.
Okay, Senator Maroney votes yes.
HB 7131, JFS to the floor.
Senator Maroney votes yes.
Okay. SB 977. Oh no, this is on the consent calendar. Okay, so that's it.
We're good? Okay,
Awesome.
thank you so much,
Great.
Megan. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Hi, Senator Flexer.
Hi, Madam Clerk. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good.
Oh, that's a nice view.
It is a nice view, isn't it?
Yes.
And it's real. It's not like some Zoom
Right.
background, I promise. I'll show you a flying flag.
Oh, there you go.
Hopefully you can enjoy it in a minute.
I know, right? All right. So we had a consent calendar for items 1 through 4 on the agenda. Do you want me to read the bills?
Nope, I know what those are, and I would like to vote yes on the consent calendar.
Awesome. I lost my pen. Okay. So then we had HB 6078, which was JFS to appropriations, and that was an act concerning availability of
Yep.
emergency. Okay, yes.
Yes.
All right.
Oh, wait. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
That was number 6 or number 5?
1 second, I lost my agenda. So I'm talking about, oh, I skipped number. I'm sorry.
You said 1 through 4 were on consent, right?
Correct. Yes, I'm sorry. I skipped number 5. Yes.
I'm a yes on 5.
Awesome. Thank you. And then so now to number 6, which was 6078 JFS to appropriations. You're a yes, correct?
I'm a yes, but
Awesome.
wrong direction to send that bill, but whatever.
Okay. All right. And then item number 7, HB 6885 JFS to the floor.
Yes.
Okay. Item number 8, HB 6886 JFS to the
Yes.
floor. Item number 9, HB 7099 JF to appropriations.
Yes.
And item number 10, 7313 JFS to the floor.
You mean 7131?
Yeah, 7131. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. I just want to make sure I'm voting
Yeah,
on the
you're-
right thing.
Yes, you are.
I'm a yes.
Awesome. All right, that's it.
Great. Thank you very much. Have a great
Thank
day.
you. You too.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Good job.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi,
to
Senator.
require registration and insurance, or if you're okay with it.
Hi. Sorry, have to mute my other meeting. Sorry
Right.
about that.
That's all right. So we had a consent calendar for items 1 through 4 on the agenda.
Okay.
Do you want me to read them?
No, that's okay. I have it in front of me.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So, for the consent calendar, items 1 through 4, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay. Then, item 5, HB 6074, JFS to the floor.
Yes.
Item 6, HB 6078, JFS to Appropriations Committee.
Yes.
HB 6885, JFS to the floor.
Yes.
And HB 6886, JFS to the floor.
Yes.
HB 7099, JF to Appropriations.
Yes.
And HB 7131, JFS to the floor.
Yes.
All right, that's it.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. Bye.